Hello, my name is Greg Barr. I'm the state examiner and instructor here at Central Penn CDL Academy. Today we're going to be going over the modernized pre-trip inspection. This inspection is for the state-run test. It is not the pre-trip that you would use in your everyday life, but it is necessary to pass the CDL exam. We're going to start with the in-cab part of the inspection. Follow me. I'm going to start the inspection by entering the cab of the vehicle using 3 points of contact at all times. I'm going to start with inspecting my seatbelt, making sure that it is not ripped, torn, or frayed, and buckles properly into the buckle. I'm now going to perform a safe start. The definition of a safe start is the transmission is in neutral, both brakes are applied, and the foot is fully to the floor for the clutch. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put my key into the on position. I'm going to see that my DEF light and my ABS light came on and went off, and they also came on, the ABS light came on at the back corner of the trailer. The next thing I'm going to do is perform a safe start. That is, the stick is in neutral, the brakes are applied, and my foot is all the way on the clutch. First thing I'm going to pump the brakes to get the air down below 90 psi to bring the governor to cut in. And now I'm going to hit my accelerator to build my air pressure up to cut out, which should happen between 120 and 140 psi. Okay, my truck has reached governor cutout at 126 psi. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put my truck into the lowest gear, disengage both of my brakes, turn the truck off, release the clutch, and turn the key into the on position. Okay, now I'm going to press on the service brake and let the gauges settle. They have settled. And I'm going to depress the brake and hold it for 1 minute. And within that 1 minute, I should not lose more than 4 psi. Starting time now. Okay, 1 minute has transpired and I can see I haven't lost more than 4 psi within that minute. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to continue to fan my brakes until the low air warning light and buzzer comes on, and that should happen above 55 psi. Okay, as you can see, the warning light and buzzer has come on. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to continue to fan my air brakes until the emergency spring brakes kick on. And that should happen between 20 and 45 psi. Both of my emergency spring brakes have kicked on. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to perform a safe start. I'm going to raise my RPMs up and bring the air system back up to cutout. Okay, we've reached cutout once more. The next thing I'm going to do is a tug test on my parking brake. Trailer brake is released, parking brake is engaged. I'm going to put the truck into low gear, and I'm going to do a light tug against the brakes. Okay, the parking brake on the tractor works. Now I'm going to push in my parking brake for the tractor and engage the trailer brake and do a tug test on the trailer brake. Okay, the trailer brakes are working. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to lightly hold the steering wheel while rolling forward at 5 miles per hour or less and depress my service brake to make sure that my brakes are adjusted evenly. Okay, my steering wheel did not turn to the left or to the right, which indicates that my front brakes are adjusted properly. You know what? Back a little further so that hoop can open. All right, the next thing I'm going to do is the rest of the in-cab inspection after I check my pre-inspection checklist. Always make sure that you check everything off as you go down through, making sure that you don't miss anything. We've done the air brake check, which was the rise to governor cutout between 120 and 140, the 55 psi or above, and the 20 to 45. So that's all within the first line item. We did the parking and trailer brake check, the tug tests, and we did the service 5 mile per hour rolling brake check. Now we can continue on after we made sure we got everything. All right. So my hood mirrors and my 2 side view mirrors are properly mounted and secured, clean and clear and adjusted to me. My windshield wiper blades are properly mounted and secured. They're not cracked, bent, or broken, and they work. And my windshield wiper blades are not dry rotted, cracked, and have even pressure against the windshield. My windshield washer fluid should work. There we go. Sprays evenly across the windshield and works properly. My windshield is properly mounted and secured. It is not cracked or broken. It has no obstructions to my view, no illegal stickers, and I have an up-to-date state inspection sticker in the lower left-hand portion of my windshield. My traffic monitoring device or camera is properly mounted and secured. It is not cracked, broken, and is operational. My left turn signal indicator on the dashboard is working. My right indicator on my dashboard is working. Oh, there it is. My 4-way flashers on the indicator, or 4-way indicators on the dashboard are working. My high beam indicator on the dashboard is also working. My city horn works. My air horn works. My defroster works. My floor heater works. Now we go over our list, make sure we got everything. So the lighting indicators are the indicators on the dashboard. We got all of those. Here we go. Emergency equipment. I have a fire extinguisher, fully charged and up to date, and it is properly mounted and secured to the cab of the truck. I have 3 red reflective triangles properly mounted and secured in the red box under the seat. They are not cracked or broken. And I have 6 spare fuses in the glove box of the truck. So we got our emergency devices. We did the windshield and traffic monitoring devices. We got the wipers and washers, the heater and defroster, and the horns. At this point, I would ask the examiner to exit the vehicle to help me with my exterior lights check. So to prepare for that, truck's in neutral, e-brake's pulled, truck is off. We're going to put the key back into the on position so that our headlights work. So the examiner is going to exit the vehicle and he will stand at the driver's side front corner of the vehicle. As he does so, we must have the engine off so he can hear us and the window down so he can also hear us. So the first thing I'm going to ask him is, are my clearance lights at the front of my cab and at the top of my trailer working? And he will respond with a thumbs up. The next thing we're going to ask him, are my regular headlights on? He'll give you a thumbs up. The next thing we're going to ask is, are my high beams working? And he will give you a thumbs up. Is my right turn signal or left turn signal working at the front of the truck, the side of the truck, and all the way down the side of the trailer? And he will give you a thumbs up. Is my right turn signal working at the front of the truck, the side of the truck, and all the way down the side of the trailer? He will respond with a thumbs up. Are my 4-way flashers working at the front of the truck, both sides of the truck, and down both sides of the trailer? He will respond with a thumbs up. Could you please go to the back of the trailer and help me with my exterior trailer lights? He will walk to the back of the trailer and he will stand within your view of your side view mirror. At this point, you want to speak loudly and clearly so that he can hear all of your requests. Are my clearance and running lights working? He will respond with a thumbs up. Is my left turn signal working? He responds with a thumbs up. Is my right turn signal working? He will respond with a thumbs up. Are my four-way flashers working? He will respond with a thumbs up. Are my brake lights working? And he responds with a thumbs up. At this point, we're going to exit the vehicle. So we're going to turn the truck off, take the key with us to secure the vehicle, and he will come to the front, and we will exit using 3 points of contact at all times. And we will take our list with us. All right, so now the next thing that we're going to do, since we've finished the external lights check, is we're going to walk around to the front of the vehicle, and we're going to do a general overview. Looking at the vehicle, I can see that all of my forward-facing lenses are properly mounted and secured. They're not cracked or broken and of the proper color. Yellow and clear lenses should be facing forward and to the sides, and red lenses should be facing to the rear. I can see that my truck is sitting on level ground. It is not leaning to the left or to the right, which could be an indicator of a broken suspension part, a flat tire, or a shifted load. Next, I'm going to look underneath the truck, and I'm going to make sure that there are no puddles of any major fluids such as oil, coolant, or fuel. Okay. Now I'm going to approach the vehicle and open the hood. Okay, so during the test, we're only supposed to check down the driver's side of the vehicle unless there is something unique to the passenger side of the vehicle. In this case, with the piece of equipment that we're using today, the best view of the coolant reservoir is on this side of the vehicle. So the way to inspect this is my coolant reservoir is clear that I can see through it, and I can tell that my coolant is at the proper operating level, which is between the minimum and the maximum. Now we'll come around to the other side of the vehicle. Over here I have my power steering reservoir. It also has a clear see-through container. And I can see that the coolant level is at the proper operating level, which is between the minimum and the maximum. I also have my fuel or oil dipstick. The way to check the oil in this truck is to pull the dipstick out, wipe it off, reinsert it, pull it back out, and make sure that the oil is between the minimum and the maximum level, which is proper operating level. Moving on from there, I'm going to see that all of my fluid hoses are properly mounted and secure with no abrasions, bulges, or cuts. My air line coming off of the distribution block is properly mounted and secured. There are no audible leaks and abrasions, bulges, or cuts. My steering shaft is properly mounted and secured. It is not cracked, bent, or broken. It has its universal joints at both ends, and they are properly greased. My power steering gearbox is properly mounted and secured. It is not cracked or broken or leaking. This part carries fluid. If you're talking about the container, always talk about whether or not it's leaking. My steering linkage is all properly mounted and secured. It is not cracked, bent, or broken. It has its bushings at either end, and they are properly mounted and secured. The boots are not dry rotted or cracked and properly greased. All of my linkage is held together with castle nuts and cotter pins. My leaf spring mounts, both front and back, are both properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken. My leaf spring stack is properly mounted and secured. It's not cracked, bent, or broken, and it is not scissoring. My U-bolts are properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken. My shock absorber is properly mounted and secured. It is not cracked, bent, or broken, or leaking. It is a hydraulic shock, therefore it has hydraulic fluid. It is not leaking. My air line coming over to my brake chamber is properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken, with no abrasions, bulges, or cuts, and I do not hear any audible leaks. My brake components are all properly mounted and secured. There are no brake contaminants that would prevent my brakes from working, such as oil or grease. My inside sidewall and my outside sidewall are both properly mounted and secured to the rim. They have no abrasions, bulges, or cuts. The crown of the tire is worn evenly. It has no abrasions, bulges, or cuts. It has more than the minimum of 4/32 of tread depth, and if I was to check the tread depth in this tire, I would do so with a proper tire tread depth gauge. You must mention the tread depth gauge in order to get credit for the tire. My rim is properly mounted and secured. It is not cracked, bent, broken, and has no illegal welds or repairs. My valve stem and my valve stem cap are both properly mounted and secured. They are not cracked, bent, or broken. If I was to check the air in this tire, I would do so with a proper tire air gauge, and it must be between 100 and 110 psi cold. My lug nuts and studs are all properly mounted and secured. They are not cracked, bent, or broken. None of them are missing. There are no shiny threads or a wipeable aluminum powder that would indicate a loose lug. The stud holes behind the lugs are not out of round. Okay. Once we get to this point, we want to go through our pre-inspection checklist and make sure we got everything. So the first thing we talked about when we were at the front of the truck was lenses. It's the first line item on here. Then we talked about fluid levels, all three: the coolant, the oil, and the power steering fluid. So we checked that off. Fluid or air leaks, when we were talking about all of my hoses, properly mounted and secured, no abrasions, bulges, cuts, or leaks. So we knocked that off. Steering system, we talked about that right up front here, so we checked that off. Tires, we just talked about that. Rims, lug nuts, springs and mounts, brake lines and hoses, and brake contaminants. Now we can move on. All right, so the next thing we're going to talk about is on the list it says traffic monitoring devices, but it is okay to call them side view mirrors. So my side view mirrors are properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken, and without illegal stickers. Make sure that when you grab this, you do grab it and give it a shake. Don't just point to it. They want you to touch it. They want you to grab it and shake it. And if you talk about the hood mirrors or inside, you must talk about them outside. So we're also inspecting these too. Properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken, no illegal stickers. Okay, moving on from there. Inside this box right here where the steps are, that is where our batteries are located. You do not need to open this up. Okay. If I was to check the batteries inside this battery box, I would see that my batteries are properly mounted and secured and tied down inside the battery box. They are not cracked or broken or leaking. The lines leading up to the terminals have no abrasions or cuts, and there's no bare wires. They're not taped or burnt, and there is no excessive corrosion on the terminals of the battery. The battery box itself is properly mounted and secured. It is not cracked, bent, or broken. Moving on, we have our DEF tank. Our DEF tank is properly mounted and secured. It is not cracked, bent, or broken. It is not leaking. It has its cap. It is tight. And the lines going to and from the DEF tank have no abrasions, bulges, cuts, or leaks. The fuel tank is done exactly the same way. My fuel tank is properly mounted and secured. It is not cracked, bent, broken, or leaking. It has its cap. It is tight. And the fuel lines going to and from the fuel tank have no abrasions, bulges, cuts, or leaks. Moving on, we go in between the truck and the trailer. So when you're doing this inspection on the lines, break it up into 3 pieces to make it easy for yourselves, okay? So my air lines are properly mounted and secured. They're not cracked, bent, or broken at the back of the cab, okay? I do not hear any audible leaks. The air lines themselves are properly mounted and secured with no abrasions, bulges, cuts, and I don't hear any audible leaks. They are properly mounted and secured with glad hands to the back of the trailer, front of the trailer. They have their bushings inside. None of them are missing. They're not dry rotted, cracked, and I do not hear any audible leaks. My electric line is properly mounted and secured into the socket at the back of the cab. It has its locking lid. The line itself has no bare wires, no abrasions or cuts, and is properly mounted and secured into the front of the trailer, into the socket with its locking lid. All of my air lines have enough clearance above the catwalk that they are not rubbing. Yes, on this truck they are, but for the test, let's make believe that they're hanging above the catwalk. They're not supposed to be rubbing. All right, moving on. My frame is properly mounted and secured. It is not cracked, bent, broken, and has no illegal welds or repairs. Moving on from there, I need to get my little pointer stick here so you can see. Okay, so now we're moving on to the apron and our connection. So my trailer apron is properly mounted and secured. It is not cracked, bent, or broken. My fifth wheel skid plate is properly mounted and secured. It is not cracked, bent, or broken, and it is properly greased. There is no gap between my apron and my fifth wheel strike plate. My fifth wheel release handle is properly mounted and secured. It is not cracked, bent, or broken, and it is in the locked position. My fifth wheel platform is properly mounted and secured. It is not cracked, bent, or broken. My fifth wheel slide rail is properly mounted and secured. It is not cracked, bent, or broken, and the locking pins for the fifth wheel slide are in the locked position. Now for the test, they will not have you climbing underneath the truck, but you must mention these parts anyway. So if I was to climb underneath the truck and look up the throat of the fifth wheel, I would see that my kingpin is properly mounted and secured. It is not cracked, bent, or broken. And that my locking jaws are also properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken, and are locked around the shank of the kingpin. It is important that you note that it is locked around the shank of the kingpin. Moving on. My clearance between my drive tires and my landing gear are enough that the truck can articulate without striking or rubbing anywhere near the landing gear or tearing off the mud flap. I have my DOT reflective tape, which covers 50% down the side of the trailer. It is properly mounted. It is not faded or torn in any way. My trailer leg supports are properly mounted and secured. They are not cracked, bent, or broken. The trailer leg and its foot are both properly mounted and secured. They are not cracked, bent, or broken. There is no debris on top of the foot that could fly off and hit a car. Both of my trailer legs are in the fully retracted position, and my trailer leg handle is properly mounted and secured. It is not cracked, bent, or broken, and in the stowed position. Moving down the length of the trailer. My multifunction lens is properly mounted and secured. It is not cracked, bent, or broken, and it is of the proper color. Looking underneath my trailer from the front to the back, I can see that all of my cross members are present. None of them are missing. They're properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken. My floor is not sagging, and there are no holes with any freight falling through. My tandem slide rail is properly mounted and secured. It is not cracked, bent, or broken. It has 4 locking pins, 2 on this side and 2 on that side, and they are in the locked position. My tandem mainframe is properly mounted and secured. It is not cracked, bent, or broken, and has no illegal welds or repairs. My tandem release handle is in the locked position and properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken. My automatic air inflation system is properly mounted and secured. The hoses have no abrasions or cuts, and I do not hear any audible leaks. My ABS lens is properly mounted and secured. It is not cracked or broken, and it is of the proper color. My corner marker lens is properly mounted and secured. It is not cracked or broken and of the proper color. Moving to the back of the trailer. My clearance lenses at the top of my trailer are properly mounted and secured. They are not cracked or broken, and they are of the proper color. I have 100% coverage of DOT reflective tape across the back of my trailer. It is not torn, frayed, or faded, properly mounted and secured. All of my multifunction tail lenses are properly mounted and secured. They are not cracked or broken and of the proper color. Once we get to this point, we don't conclude the test just yet. We want to go down through our list and make sure we've gotten everything, because you can always go back. If you get to this point and you forget something at the front of the truck, you can go back up there and do the inspection. Once you have completed all of that, once you know you have it, at that point you can say, this concludes my examination. So we're going to look at Lenses and reflectors, we got all of that. Traffic monitoring devices, our side view mirrors. Battery, fuel tank, and DEF, we got the frame. Air electric lines and connectors. Fifth wheel skid plate. The kingpin, the apron, the gap. Locking and safety devices, that would be your locking jaws around the kingpin and all of your locking pins for the fifth wheel slide and for the tandem slide. Landing gear and the clearance. The clearance is the clearance between the drives and the trailer leg. Reflective tape, and at the rear of the trailer we have lenses and reflectors. Once we have completed this and everything is filled, then we say, this concludes my pre-trip inspection. I hope this helps you study, and when you come in the next morning for class, you'll have a better understanding of the pre-trip inspection. Until I see you in class, have a great evening or a great day.